We're going to do a blind reaction to the top 5 African nomad cities that we are moving to. I don't know if he means just Black Americans, and I don't know the name of this gentleman, but I will say it throughout the video. So thanks for watching, and let's get to it.
Now, when people think about moving abroad as a nomad or expat, they always think of the same 3 regions. It's either Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, or South America. What if I told you that Africa is a really interesting emerging market that can give you the same benefits or even more, especially if you're trying to escape the West? My name is Nathan Pyerse, I'm the founder of Remote Sovereignty, and in this video, I'll be giving you the top 5 African cities that you might want to live in. Now, no particular order, at the top of this list is Nairobi, Kenya.
That is on top of everybody's list, is Nairobi.
Now, Nairobi is considered to be the Silicon Valley of Africa. It is the entrepreneurial heartbeat of Eastern Africa. And whenever wealthy investors are looking to invest into a company, Nairobi is always at the top of this list in terms of venture capital. There is so much potential in this economy, from online businesses to even real estate. That's why a lot of the Chinese people go and build properties, develop properties here, because they see where Nairobi is headed to. And what I love about Nairobi as someone who's traveled and lived in Africa full time for the past 2 years is that it does have a growing African American and British community. And as someone who's lived in South Africa, there is a lot of nomads and expats there, but I generally did feel like a lot of people did keep to themselves. Whereas in Nairobi, there is a growing collectivist community here where you can network with other nomads and expats who also live.
That is very important if you're trying to go somewhere and start over and you're going to by yourself. The fact that there's people there that can help you and want to build a community with you is very important. So that's something that I would want to know, is what's community going to be like and how accepting are they of people
here. Now, it's not going to be like Thailand or Bali, but it is gradually growing as the years go by. Also, Nairobi is very affordable. As someone who's born and raised in London, you also know about the cost of living situation. It's practically impossible to live a normal life in London unless you're already making £10,000 a month. And even then, almost half your income is going to taxes. And the other half of that is you're paying rent, you're paying bills. You're basically £10,000 a month isn't even enough in London to live a normal life. And in Nairobi, you can live very comfortably. You can have rent here for just £500, £600 a month. Nice apartments, very clean, very modern, for a fraction of what you'll get in London. It's also very safe for an African country. You know, a lot of Western media will make Africa seem as really unsafe, and there is cartels and there's gangs and there's wars and all of these things going on. Nairobi, I can walk around at 2 a.m. in the morning and I feel very, very safe in select areas. Not all areas are made to be equal. If you're looking to move to a place like Nairobi,
I mean, that's anywhere. I mean, even the city in Sacramento or LA that I've been to, you can't walk outside at nighttime, especially if you're a woman. So, I mean, that's anywhere.
I recommend you move to a place like Westlands, Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Lavington, which is in the whole Kileleshwa area. These are the nicest areas to live in, and generally speaking, you're going to feel very, very safe. You're not going to get stabbed or shot for no reason. When compared to a place like America, where there's random acts of violence. Obviously, in the past few weeks, we've had so many tragedies happen in America, with obviously firstly that Ukrainian woman getting her neck sliced open for no reason, and then political.
I didn't know about that, but wow.
Figure Charlie getting assassinated in broad daylight for his political views. These things don't happen.
In essence, the business model is this: that people care enough about planting 10 trees that they're willing to pay more for their clothing. That's
in Nairobi. In fact, guns are very, very hard to obtain. You need a specific license to get guns here, when compared to other Western countries where anyone can pick up a gun and start shooting people if they feel like it. I feel very, very safe in Nairobi. It's not perfect. You know, you can walk around, and if you have your phone out, you can get your phone snatched. But obviously, living in a place like Lavington or Kilimani, that's the worst things that would happen. And it's funny, isn't it? You know, in a place like Africa where the Western media makes it seem like it's so unsafe, when actually it's the West that are more psychologically twisted. They're more likely to do heinous acts of violence, to commit atrocities. These things don't happen in Nairobi. Another micro factor that you might want to consider if you're someone who's into longevity and health is that the food here is organic and fresh. On average, it takes around...
I mean, it's organic by nature. Like, it's just what it is. It's not over here where you gotta make it organic.
2 days for the food to come from the farm, if you're buying fruits and vegetables, into the grocery stores. I don't spray it with all of the chemicals and pesticides that they do in Western countries. And again, if you're looking to live here for a long period of time, these are things that you might want to consider. And in the West, if they're not killing you with guns, they're slowly poisoning you with the food. So that's one thing you might want to consider if health is a big factor to you. Another big advantage of Nairobi is very easy for a nomad and expat to live here. So not every country in the world you can just go in there and fly in there and live forever. I know a lot of these nomads make it seem like it's so easy. In most countries, it isn't. But in Nairobi, it's very simple. So before you fly from the US or UK, you need to get an e-visa. It's going to take you about 1 to few hours. It can take longer for some individuals. So please make sure to get an e-visa. Don't just book your plane ticket, go to the airport and then fly there. It's going to be, there's a process to it. But once you have an e-visa, when you arrive in Nairobi, you get 90 days from the time you've arrived to the time when you can leave. And you can also extend it for another year and a few years as well. And it's a very straightforward.
Wait, you can extend it for a year? Wow, that's important to know because I'm looking for that. I need a place where I can go hang out for a year to kind of get used to things and kind of like a home base. So if I can go there for a year, that's something to think about.
Very fast process, not like other African countries where you're going to be waiting months, if not years, to get a tourist visa. You can do it very quickly, and you can do this in Nairobi, in the embassy that they have here. So if you want help doing this properly, you can book in a call with our team, and we can point you to the right partners as well. Now, there are some downsides of Nairobi as I've lived here for the past 4 months, and I will continue to live here periodically as time goes on. But for me, the biggest con is the infrastructure. I'm very used to westernized infrastructure. I've lived in Dubai, I've lived in London, I've lived in South Africa for extensive periods of time. So I know what a very polished level of infrastructure looks like. Now, Nairobi is still livable. You can still kind of walk around if you get used to it, but you are going to be seeing open drains. You are going to be seeing potholes everywhere.
Okay, so it's like any other city that I've been to. I mean, yeah, the cities I've lived in have better infrastructure, but I've seen this around the world via vlogs, so I get it.
And I'm just imagining for you, if you're going to Nairobi, you will be in for an infrastructure shock. It's not so terrible that you can't live here. There are people who've lived here for many, many years, but it's something to consider. Don't have your expectations so high. I know that as an influencer, we have a tendency to glamorize another country because obviously we want to sell you in the country, we want it to come here, and that's how we get paid, that's how we make our money. But I want to tell you the raw reality of what it's actually like. So it's not terrible, but just don't have your expectations too high. Also, in terms of traffic, if you are going around by Uber, especially going into the city area, do expect heavy traffic. They do have an express highway where you can shortcut the traffic. Obviously, you do have to pay for that, or the Uber driver will have to pay for that. If you are going to an important meeting, just expect that there will be delays when it comes to traffic. Another con.
So we're talking about like 405 traffic or Rio de Janeiro traffic?
This is more of a personal thing for me. I don't know if this might be a con for you. If you're a Black American or a Black Brit and you're looking for love overseas, you know, one might call them passport bros or whatever you might call them. There is a big passport bro movement here. It reminds me of a DR or a South America or a Thailand. The issue I have is some of the individuals that come here and they do drag down the reputation. You know, I've fought hard to build. I've obviously upheld a certain level of reputation here as I've come from the West into these countries, and you'd hope that other people would follow suit, but unfortunately there has been some stories of people not doing that. So for me personally, I've chosen to disassociate myself with these kinds of individuals, but that's one thing that really does drag down Nairobi in general. It's not necessarily the local people here, it's more some of the Westerners that are coming here, dragging it down and making it worse for everyone else that wants to move here. Next on this list, we're going to go to South Africa, and we're going to start with Cape Town, South Africa. Now, Cape Town currently is my favorite place in Africa by far. It's no denying that Cape Town is one of the most beautiful place in the whole of Africa. It reminds me of the LA of Southern Africa. It looks beautiful from the landscape.
So are we talking about as far as infrastructure as well, it's like that, or what?
To the promenades, to the vineyards. It has really everything that you need. And the reason why I love Cape Town specifically, if you are coming from the West and you're used to westernized infrastructure, Cape Town will give you the easiest transition if you're coming from London, if you're coming from New York, or anywhere in the West. A lot of the malls look like malls in the West. Even some of them have been better than in the West. The cost of living is also a lot more affordable. And I've been talking about for years on this channel about geographic arbitrage. You know, you always want to move to a country where you've got stronger purchasing power, where your dollar, your pound, your euro stretches a lot further. And in Cape Town, it's one of the more expensive parts of South Africa, but it's noticeably cheaper than London or anywhere in the West. So you can find a 1-bedroom apartment for £500, £600 a month. A 2-bedroom for...
That's perfect. £500 a month is perfect.
or maybe £1,000 a month. Compared to London, that'll be double or even triple that amount. The weather in Cape Town is also quite nice. It can get a little bit cold in certain areas because obviously you're right by the Atlantic seaboard with the Atlantic Ocean, and you do have that ocean breeze. Whereas in the winter, when you go walking around, you can really feel that winter breeze. It really does prick you sometimes. So it is a beachfront location, but it's not as warm compared to other parts of South Africa. But
How is the beaches like compared to like Miami though?
Cape Town isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Now, I've lived in multiple different countries around the world. I've lived in Africa, I've lived in Middle East, I've been to Europe multiple times. I know how to move around. I know to have a sense of street smart. But when I'm advising certain clients as to where they should go, for some individuals, I wouldn't recommend them to go to a place like South Africa, especially if they do have children, they're concerned about their safety. If you're looking for the safest country or safest city in the world, I wouldn't recommend Cape Town. So if Cape Town is like the LA of South Africa, Johannesburg is like the New York of South Africa. So if you are planning to move to South Africa as an expat, here's what you need to do. You can go fly there, check it out. You're gonna get 90 days in on arrival. If you wanna live there, you gotta go back to your country of origin. You go to the VFS office or the embassy. There have been new regulations that's made applying for a visa really, really fast. Now, once you've got your long-term visa, then you can fly back to South Africa and you can have no issues at immigration, no issues at the borders. But if you try and do border runs and think that you can just keep coming in and out, it's not a Mexico, it's not a Brazil, you can't do that, and they will send you back. Especially in Johannesburg Airport and All Tambo, they are not democratic, they are rogue, they don't follow the law at all. Even at one point, I was locked up in an airport, so you can avoid that mistake by just doing everything in your home country. Now,
I need to find that whole story with that. Why was you locked up? I want to know that whole story, man. Let me know.
South Africa, we can go right back up to Eastern Africa. And if Nairobi is a Silicon Valley of Africa, then Kigali is known as the Singapore of Africa. And it's a really interesting emerging market in Africa that's increasingly becoming more popular. It's obviously not as
I never would have thought Rwanda would be a place you would go to. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about it, I just never thought about it. So I'd love to know more about it.
Popular as a place like Cape Town, but it's becoming more popular as time goes on. And what's quite interesting about Kigali, Rwanda, is it actually has better infrastructure than Nairobi. The Rwandan government has really made big strides to make sure that the place is clean, it's modern. It generally does feel like it could be the Singapore of Africa. The only thing about Rwanda is it's just too quiet. It's very clean, but it's too sterile. And I think if you're in your 20s and 30s, you want to go out, you want to have fun, you want to enjoy the nightlife, I don't think Rwanda will be the best option, or when you're...
I don't mind quiet. I mean, I want some things to do, obviously, but I don't mind quiet, actually.
Comparing that against Nairobi and then comparing against Johannesburg or Cape Town, I think Kigali just might not be for you. If you're an older person, not really into that, then Rwanda might be really good. Now, in terms of immigration, I don't know too much about Rwanda. I've not lived there. I will be planning a trip there to explore what it's like and just go for more of the immigration side of things. But I would say for the time being, if you're looking for a lifestyle base, Kenya and South Africa might be better options for now. But there is one more African city that I'm really interested in. And what's even more interesting about the city is that it's not on the mainland.
This AI tool will create a stunning ebook direct from your content, whether it's a Microsoft Word document or a Google document, or even if you
continent. It sits outside of the mainland continent, and it's a 4-hour flight from Kenya and Johannesburg. And that city is Port Louis in Mauritius. Now, Mauritius has been of my interest for some time, mainly for taxes and safety. Let's start with taxes, because a lot of expats and nomads that move from the West to a country don't understand the legal side of how taxes work, and they either just don't file. Like, I've met so many expats that have lived in countries for years and years and years that just don't pay local taxes. I mean, I know enforcement systems are very low, especially in Africa, so you probably can get away with it, but it doesn't mean it's legal. And if you want to do things the right way, you want to have your tax residency set up somewhere. It could be the UAE. You can plant your flag in the UAE, and I don't want to go too into depth in terms of how that structure works. But going to Dubai isn't the only option. I believe that a lot of people just say, oh, run to Dubai, 0% tax. And then even if Dubai doesn't have completely 0% tax, you've got to pay 9% corporation tax. In Mauritius, it has a 15% flat tax on your income, which is obviously not 0%, but in Mauritius, you can get up to 80% in tax relief on your foreign sourced income, which means that your effective tax rate can go to as low as 3 to 9% on all of your income, which isn't 0%, but it's going to be way better than what you're paying in the UK or USA. The tax side is one thing, but
way better Because I mean, here in the UK, in the United States, you can pay upwards of 40. I think I pay like between 14 and 20. So that's good to know.
It's also very livable. It's become a lot more industrious as time's gone on. A lot of nomads and expats have moved to Mauritius, which can make it a really great place for networking. Now, it's not going to be like Dubai, where you're going to meet millionaires driving Lamborghinis. It's obviously not as flamboyant as a place like UAE, but you can meet other nomads and expats there, so you don't have to worry about feeling lonely if you go and travel there. And the biggest draw for me, who not only looks at migration from a micro and individual level, but also looks at the macro economy and where the world is headed to, I would say Mauritius is one of those safe zones that you might want to consider if you are worried about an impending global war. And I've been doomsday prepping since I was 16. I've had this avid interest in where the world is headed to, and Mauritius, because it has no geopolitical affiliations of any other Western nation, or really any other nation. No one really thinks about Mauritius. It's one of those places where I would want to go in the likely event that we do go into a World War III. You know, when the West and China.
I'm sorry, but that's actually very important, and I got to put that on my radar now.
And Russia are all bombing each other, I would feel safe for myself and my family and my loved ones to live in Mauritius. And you can get residency in Mauritius indefinitely if you go and buy a property for $375,000, and that's going to give you residency, and you can stay there indefinitely for life as long as you keep the property, don't sell it. So, you know, with the way the world is going,
so all you gotta do is buy a property and you got residency there forever. Yo, that's the plan right there. I need to figure out which African country will let me buy residency like that. If I can get it like that, I mean, I gotta get the money, but I'm ready to go.
Right now, from a macro perspective, I'm very, very likely to go and buy property in Mauritius. On a local and micro level, living there day to day is very safe. You're not going to worry about gun violence or crime or all of these things you're experiencing in Western countries. So you can feel safe to send your kid to school there and have them walk around, and don't need to worry about all of these things you would experience. And I can go on and on. There's so many things I love about the country. If you're interested in longevity, the air quality is also great. The food is very fresh there. So Mauritius is one of those places that I'm considering. It isn't going to be as lively as a place like Nairobi or Joburg or Cape Town if you're a young person looking to have fun. But for those of you that think a little bit bigger than just like, I'm looking for a place where I can hop around, and you want to start thinking about plan Bs and sovereignty, Mauritius is a really interesting place that you might want to check out. So those are my top 5 African cities that you might want to move to as an expat. Obviously, 3 of these cities I've lived in for extensive periods of time. That's Nairobi, Kenya, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. I am planning more trips to different parts of Africa because I just want to see what it's like.
But that Mauritius idea, listen, you gotta take that in consideration. That's not a bad idea.
To live there, not like I have any intention of living there, but it's all good talking about these amazing cities you can go live in, but how do you actually make the move? How do you actually make the leap from wherever you're based in the world and migrate full-time to these cities? I did it a few years ago, and it was a very seamless transition for me. But after speaking to lots of people that want to make this jump, it's easier said than done. I mean, the first thing you want to make sure is that you have a remote source of income, like an online business where you can earn whilst you travel using a laptop and an internet connection, so you can work from wherever it is you want in the world.
Exactly.
But the next part is actually how to figure out this whole moving process, the visas, the housing, the schooling for your kids if you have kids, like, oh, just deciding which country is best for you. I mean, there's so many different places in the world, and for some people, Africa makes sense. Other people, Southeast Asia makes sense. So what we do at my company, Remote Sovereignty, is we help you to have a remote source of income and also move abroad. So everything is a seamless process. If you are interested in moving to Africa or really anywhere in the world, you want to escape the West and move abroad, then I invite you to book in a call with me in the first link in the description below. And as always, I hope you didn't.
Yeah, I may have to do that. I'm gonna recommend this. I mean, wait for my money to get a little bit better, but I think just having a consultation with the gentleman, at least especially when it comes to the remote job part, if you can help me with that, that's gonna speed up my process a lot easier.
Enjoy that video. If you did, please leave a massive thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.